are in promoting.
Piper Jansen.
What's your angle?
Small town girl makes it big.
This Christmas.
She's here to promote her brand new Christmas cookbook.
My Grammy Rose's original recipes.
I'm surprised you're saying original with all the allegations.
Allegations?
Looks like someone could use a little PR of their own.
To save her reputation.
Not to brag, but I own a failing Christmas village in town.
I'm here today because I'm actually going to help you free of charge.
She'll have to work her magic.
Did someone say save the day?
I don't know what to say.
You say thank you and we get started. It's Christmas time. The scarf will let people think they can trust you.
They can trust me.
Ah, that's the spirit. I need a miracle. Hi there, you must be delivering.
I was told you needed a miracle.
While discovering the magic of Christmas.
Wow, it's incredible. How is this possible?
Ah, what can I say? I know how to turn things around.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry
This is
Christmas.
different here.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Miracles come in all shapes and sizes.
It takes a village.
I have seen a lot of smiles in my life. It takes a whole lot of love to smile like that.
To fall in love. A Christmas Village.
Welcome back to another stocking stuffer. We are here yet again to tackle something that I think at one point aired on Hallmark. It's an older one, quote unquote. By older, I mean 2018, which is 4 years old, which in the dog years world of Cozy Cardigan Christmas means that it has gray hair now. That being said, maybe we liked it, maybe we didn't. Who's the we I'm talking about? Well, let me introduce my special guest star. You know her from the Cultural Gutter. It is the one and only Carol Borden. Hello, Carol.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I am delighted to have you. We had you a year ago-ish. You introduced me to that wonderful mermaid movie.
The Lure, yeah.
The Lure. Oh, what a classic. And you were here for a stocking stuffer a few years back. I can't remember the name of the movie. It was one of the Rockies, Smokies, Mountains Christmases.
Oh, yeah, it was like Christmas in the Smokies. What
Something
I mostly
like that.
remember is we talked a lot about Herzog.
Yeah, that made sense. Yeah. Yeah, he does not make an appearance in A Christmas Village. That is the movie we've got today. Before we dive in, Carol, what is your general stance, opinion, experience with Cozy Cardigan Christmas movies?
I like some of them I find quite enjoyable.
Mhm.
I am not a serious person, however, and I do not take them very seriously. Also, I realized that I have this, like, did we talk about Most Wanted Santa last year? Did I watch that for you?
I feel like you watched that on your own and told me about it, and you were it was fascinating.
What I'm thinking about is like Most Wanted Santa is close to what I have realized I consider normal movies. And
everything is relative. Go on.
And most of these Christmas Cozy Cardigan movies are like their own effing thing.
Mm-hmm.
That at most have a slight overlap with what I can only call right now normal movies.
I understand. Yeah. I think I do. Yeah.
I think I need another category that, like, I recognize that's insulting, and I don't necessarily mean that as an insult, because I enjoy the fringes of beyond the norm.
I was going to say, you're a genre fan.
Yeah.
I feel I do the same thing where I am somebody that goes by like the Roger Ebert school of Beverly Hills Chihuahua can be a 3-star movie because the audience it is made for, that's a 3-star movie for them.
Yeah, and if it accomplishes its own goals that it's set for itself.
Yes, and I can say that all, but fully also say A Christmas Village is a different type of movie than Raging Bull. And they are not necessarily in the same class in certain definitions of class, but they are both doing... They both have goals. And how do they accomplish those goals? That is...
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that A Christmas Village is well within the realm of these kinds of movies. It's like plop in the center.
Yes, I would agree.
And as far as what it accomplishes in terms of cozy cardigan Christmas movies, I don't think it's on like the higher end,
Okay.
but I found many entertaining elements. And my sense of it is it accomplished its own goal of getting this movie fucking done.
For as little money as can be, so
That's
that we
right.
can use the surplus to actually feed the crew.
Yes.
Yep. I'm similar, but I have maybe a wild statement to make. I weirdly found myself very entertained by this movie.
It's like for me, it's like a donut of a movie
Go
where
on.
like the center romance for me
Oh,
was largely empty.
Yes,
And then there's
yes.
just like this donutiness of the many people who live in this village, the presence of goats,
the existence of Santa Claus, maybe.
the Santa Claus, yeah.
There's a dog. There's a horny TV host.
The screenwriter plays a weird baker.
Yes, he does.
I enjoyed the really aggressive shelter lady who was getting rid of dogs by ambushing people on that
that.
strange television
Loved
show.
her. Yeah.
See, I loved all that.
Yeah. So this is, to give a little background, this is the writing directing team. It's a team because they have done many of these movies, and then a more interesting movie aside from that.
I was hoping we were going to talk
We
about
have to,
that.
yes. This is directed by Justin. I'm assuming it's Justin Dyke, D-Y-C-K. I don't know if it's Dyke or Dick. I assume Dyke. But
I
I
assumed Dyke,
Yeah.
but I grew up in a Dutch American area, so Dyke.
So that's how you would pronounce it. Exactly. Written by Keith Cooper. These guys. There's definitely like I sometimes think of like, would I ever want to actually interview more directors who've done these movies? And like, there's really two sets of people that I would love to talk to. I would love to talk to Michael Pfeiffer, who we've mentioned a few times on the show, and these guys, because I think they have worked together on several things, several Christmas movies, a few of which I've seen, one of which I did 2 years ago, I think, a Puppy for Christmas. Not to be confused with the 12 Pups of Christmas, which was directed by Michael Pfeiffer. But A Puppy for Christmas, I actually felt I could totally see, oh my God, of course it's the same team. Because it was a similar thing where same type of budget, same kind of, okay guys, we're making a movie, don't forget, attitude. But also like weird spurts of humor, genuinely kind of enjoyable. And also something, and we'll get into it when we go into the list, but a surprisingly rounded lead who is more interesting than just a type. The thing that they have made that many probably like actual normal listeners have seen is the horror movie that's on Shudder, Anything for Jackson.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No.
Oh, you should.
It was available to me sort of during festival season, but I was seeing so many other movies for festival season that one sort of slipped by me, and I haven't caught up with all the things yet. But it looked super interesting.
Yeah, I loved it. It's very much a horror movie like made for me because it is about old people. And I love when old people are the villains of a horror movie. And it's a lot of character actors, a lot of faces you recognize. It's very Canadian. And it's a story you haven't quite seen before. And it's winter, and that's used so well. And watching it just also was so rewarding because I'm like, they know how to shoot in winter because they have made these movies. Like,
Yeah.
And you can see that I am guessing Justin Dyke's passion is probably not Christmas movies.
Yes.
But he used them to like probably meet a lot of people, make a lot of contacts. He works with a lot of the same casts and things, and make the connections he needs to make Anything for Jackson. And then the next year come back and make, another Christmas movie. So I'm fine with it because I actually kind of like his Christmas movies.
Well, and it's one of the things that was interesting to me, like building on that, is how the like really low end film industry has changed, at least in Canada, because it used to be you made your cheap horror movies that people loved for the same reasons that we're talking about loving these Christmas movies, where like maybe or maybe not they're super successful in their own goals, but they often would have an interesting idea, a weirdly uncanny horror movie moment because of low budget practical effects, great lines or whatever. And then people would go on and build their career somewhere else. But now there's like this level of we make really cheap Christmas movies, and on one hand, it provides actors with really solid, consistent work in the year. And on the other hand, it's like, oh, well, this is where we get our start in filmmaking. And then we make our indie horror movie, and then maybe we move on to something else from that.
Yeah.
Which is, wow.
It sounds a little bit like when directors talk about directing for television versus directing film, and how it's very much a for hire job, but they walk into a machine, right?
Yeah.
That there are deadlines. You can get creative, but you still need to get all your shots in this day. And there's something very, I don't know, I'm somebody that like, I realize like the older I get that I'm creative, but I work so much better with guidelines. And it's probably very similar for a lot of these directors, that it forces a certain training to you to know how to get the right lighting quickly, how to get a child actor to do something that when you need them to and you don't have the time or budget to waste on it. It's a good training.
I really like your point about how like they've learned how to shoot in winter now, and now I'm like really looking forward to even more like there's been like this spurt of cool winter horror genre movies, and like, oh yay, looking forward to that.
So why don't we talk about the story of A Christmas Village? And for those of you at home, I guess it's Hallmark. It feels like one that wasn't made by Hallmark, but was probably probably purchased by Hallmark, because you look at the production companies and it's not Hallmark.
And nicely something or other.
Yeah, and like it's clearly a very low budget. It is on Peacock currently, so if you have access to Peacock, then you can watch A Christmas Village. You want to give kind of Carol a rough synopsis of the story?
There was a part I wanted to ask you about, but I will start my synopsis first.
Okay.
So there is a woman, Piper, and she does some kind of Christmas book series, but also she improves other people's companies. And she meets this guy, Tim. Is it Tim?
It's Tim. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about Tim.
Yes.
Tim might not be well or all there.
There's a lot of, like, I lived in Ontario for quite a while, and there's a lot of Ontario going on in their relationship, I think.
Okay, that makes sense.
But she's, like, very efficient and very officious, but both of these things, like, her officiousness is, like, to the benefit of Tim, because Tim is running a failing festival, like, Christmas festival village, where you can, like...
Is he even running it?
I don't know. I don't. Like,
he doesn't charge people to come to it. He doesn't actually take care of it. I think he just
maybe
lives
the
there.
Goats run it. I don't know.
Maybe that makes more sense.
He has an abusive Santa that he lets run around.
Yes, he does.
But they meet on this strange television show.
Yeah, it's like a Good Morning America local show, but it's very confusing where the show is.
Yeah, it's. You know what it reminded me? It was like in the lobby of a small community center. And there didn't seem to be any cameras.
Oh my God, you're right. There were no cameras.
And there's a really entertaining audience reaction track. Like,
yes.
We never see any audience
We do
numbers.
not.
There's a lot of passive aggression that just like flips on and off between passive aggression and support. But somehow, and it wasn't clear to me how this happened, but Piper claims that she has an email from Tim's kids to come and fix his festival village, and she'll get a book out of it.
Because Piper gets caught up, and Piper's releasing a cookbook of her grandma's recipes.
Yes.
And she thinks she's going on, like, doing a fluff piece for, like, a Regis and Kelly, but, you know, in, like, the Boondocks. Mm-hmm. And instead, the interviewer then kind of brings up this thing that Piper didn't know was going on, which is, oh, you know that one of your former employees is saying you stole his recipes.
Yes.
So Piper, being a good PR person, spins it and immediately is like, "Oh, actually, we'll talk about that later. I'm here because this guy's kids wrote to me."
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a good like she's a very good at her job. She has
So
good
she just
instincts.
straight up lied then.
Yes.
Because I knew that the kids hadn't sent the letter. So then I was like, well, where is this coming from? Because I got distracted in the beginning by the strange television show.
Understandable, 100%. I
And
didn't
the
think to look for the
strange-
cameras. That is a. Have you ever done that where, like you've recorded a podcast, or like you were doing, I don't know, like some kind of thing that was supposed to be recorded, and you do the whole thing, and then people are watching, and then like you realize, oh, we didn't actually record, and there's a really weird moment when you're like, I just entertained you. There's something like very uncomfortable about that. And that now this whole thing is getting weird.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so the kids did not. So she pretends the kids wrote a letter. Tim doesn't get it. Tim's like, "Huh? My kids wrote you a letter, even though they just met you today?"
Yeah, I can see how he was fooled because, like, I was initially fooled, and then there was no explanation other than it turned out there wasn't a letter, and Tim was strangely okay with that, but Tim was like very passive.
I don't think Tim's. I think Tim had like a head injury. That
No, I was doing when I was doing my research. I saw a series of very entertaining reviews on Letterboxd, and one of them did suggest that perhaps Tim had brain damage.
yeah, and you get that sense. Like he just never seems to process things quickly,
Yes.
right? Yeah, yeah.
But it's good that he lives in a place that's supportive for the skills and stuff
Yes.
that everyone in his weird village has.
Indeed.
And
When their
including-
skills are Christmas.
Yeah, and what was interesting I was surprised that they kept pivoting back to this cookie recipe lawsuit thing because it really seemed like they spent a lot of time on her fixing the festival village, but she was like, she just had it fixed. There was no tension. Just fix, fix, fix. It's all fixed. And I appreciated that. While I personally would find her very difficult as a human being, she did read as a real person, and the movie liked her enough that they were like, sure, other people might consider her like a control freak, but in this world, she's extremely helpful to Tim.
Yeah. She's kind of a Christmas angel in this movie. Like, I know Piper's supposed to be the lead in need of a lesson, but she is actually the hero of this movie.
Yeah, well, and she is. She is actually the hero. She's actually the love interest. Even if I'm busy watching Kenny and the strange shelter lady and the woman who runs the bed and breakfast.
Oh my God, there's so many great supporting characters here. And that's, so we'll go into it because, I mean, that's the plot. They, at one point, she's gonna leave the Christmas village, which she has completely turned around. In part because she discovered Santa Claus was an Uber driver and they hired him, and that's great.
I was really hoping. I mean, they never said he wasn't.
They never said he wasn't. I'm holding true that he was.
Yeah.
She is going to leave town because she thinks it's like she thinks that this lawsuit that's coming out is going to be bad press now for the Christmas village. So she goes to the airport to leave. He goes to the airport to find her. The plane already left, but like she just didn't get. Even that's a weird scene where their tension just is in the wrong place, kind of.
Yeah, they walk towards each other very slowly.
Yes, again, head injury.
Like, the level of self-consciousness was, on one hand, really high for a movie, and on the other hand, very true to real life.
Well, like, because he's at the airport, because there's a dog. We should mention the dog.
There's a dog.
A very good boy, named Archie, who is saddled on her in a wonderful move by this woman that just keeps showing up, and she works for a shelter, and she just keeps finding ways to get rid of her shelter dogs to people. And
I love that she embarrasses them on television, so they have to take the dog.
it's brilliant. It's brilliant moves. It's probably very unethical,
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Part of what's brilliant is they actually set this in Ontario. And if they had set it in any place in the United States, like I think even here in the Midwest, a person would either take the dog on the TV and then give it back. Or, like, that would be the most polite Midwestern way to do it. But I think everybody else would be like, no, you
Right,
did.
like, I'm not fucking doing this. I don't have a license. I don't have room.
But in Ontario, she can embarrass them into doing it.
And
then they
Piper's
feel
like, well, I guess I have a
responsible.
dog now. I'm traveling. I don't even have a place to put him, but I guess I have a dog because I have to. I'm Canadian.
Yeah, and I thought she was going to give it to Tim and his kids because
Yeah.
they seemed much more capable of taking care of
Right.
the animals. But she kept it.
Yeah, no,
Kept
there is
it.
honor to Canada. Who knew? I mean, I guess everybody knew, but yeah. But like the dog. So like she's at the he's at the airport looking for her and he thinks she's left already and he's very sad and he turns around very
Yeah.
slowly. And then the dog starts walking toward the dog barks first of all. There's no other sound in the airport. And the dog barks and he doesn't hear it somehow. Again, head injury. And eventually the dog walks over to him and after again, this is like a 2-minute scene of him finally looking down and seeing the dog and slowly petting the dog and then saying, "Wait, Archie, why are you here?" And then realizing she's here too. But like even that was such a like, and I don't know. It's kind of reminds me of like Arrested Development when the third season when Michael is dating Charlize Theron and he thinks she's quirky, but she actually like it has some learning brain disability, like she's not all there. I think that might be the case with this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they complement each other very well.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because I was concerned about her like on her side and her difficulties. I was concerned about her taking care of Archie. Like
yeah.
I was like, I don't know that this woman
Same.
could take care of a dog. And then like there he is taking care of her dog. We're getting her
works.
food. We're taking, and clearly Archie was very well trained.
Oh yes.
And as an aside, I did enjoy how you could always see Archie looking for their trainer.
Well, that was also true of the child actors in this movie. So. All right, so let's dive into what we look for in these. So number one is our female lead in need of a lesson. We've talked a lot about Piper. Piper is played by, what is this actress's name? Because I actually
Madeline
really liked her.
Leon.
Yeah, I liked her.
Yep, she was a very believable person.
Yeah, I think she found, and this is both her and the writing. She is a very, and again, like there's these guys are smart. There's a lot of kind of wink wink, but it's wink wink in a way that isn't talking down to the material. I feel like it's there so that people that maybe are watching these a little ironically can be like, "Oh, I saw it. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But to anybody else, like, no, like she's presented as a career woman. But she's sassy and she's quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I you know how I think that the lesson was like, and it wasn't very heavy-handed because a lot of these can be very heavy-handed,
Oh, yeah.
particularly when it's like learning to appreciate the value of Christmas.
Yes.
Because and I appreciate that rather than learning not to be herself. Like,
Yeah.
instead she can be herself in this context where it's helpful.
Yep.
Which I hope we all achieve one day where we get
Indeed.
to be ourselves and be helpful.
And find a great partner with brain damage.
Yeah, if that's helpful to us
Yeah.
and helpful to them. But I lost my thought. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. There are some lines that are very funny. At one point, I think it's Tim who says to her like, "Well, I know you're not into happiness or anything that comes with joy." Like, which is such an obvious
Yes.
line, but it's one that
Yes.
normally you don't have that line. You have a very close version of that line, but like in this movie, it's a character actually says, "Well, I know you don't like to be happy." Like that's
Yes.
funny.
Yeah, but it turned out she did. It's
Yeah.
just certain ways.
Yeah. And even
I
her,
like-
yeah.
I liked, is Santa stripping for business or pleasure?
Yes. Let's see. Now, number two is our setting, which is either a big bad city, a charming small town, or a magical winter wonderland. Now, the town's name is Winter Ridge. So I didn't catch it. They actually say they're in Canada.
I'm pretty sure they did, yeah.
Okay, fascinating. How about that? The town is often described, like Piper is describing the town out loud to her sister a lot, and she says, it's weird. Everybody holds the door for you, even when you're far away. And
Yeah.
her sister's like, you should test it out and see how long they'll hold it for you. She's like, I did. They held it for a long time. Again, like, that's funny. And
Your sister.
I do too. There's the sassy Santa who is bragging about the town. And do you think there really is a Guinness World Book of World Records entry for the town that has the most people not leaving it? Was kind of what he was trying to say.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It, and we have two Santas that
Hmm.
are, we have Lake, and they're
Oh,
both
yes.
drivers.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense because Santa drives a sleigh.
I sort of remembered what I was going to, I wanted to ask you about because there was like a period before we get the guy who might really be Santa,
Hmm.
where she and her sister are talking about some kind of Christmas trauma that affected their mom and why they don't like Christmas. And I was kind of hoping that it would turn out to be that they were Santa's kids and that their mom was Mrs. Claus and they had been divorced.
Oh my God, you just wrote the greatest movie of all time.
Thank
Like a
you.
Marriage Story, but as a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Ha.
Oh, I want it right now. Stop everything. We're going to stop recording right now so that Carol can go write the screenplay. We're gonna email it. We're gonna tweet it at Justin Dyke and see if we can get this going. I'm in.
But you know how we can work it with this because like maybe they didn't know their dad
That's
and so
true.
when like Santa shows up as the Uber driver,
Like that's why there's a connection right
yeah,
away. Yeah.
he's coming
Wow.
to help them out. I mean,
Wow. I love it. Um. Man, okay, mind is blown.
sorry, I
That's okay. Back on track if I can manage to stay on track. Our bland love interest, which is often a widowed dad who works with his hands.
Mhm.
Well,
Yes,
what do we
yes.
have here?
A widowed dad who works with his hands and
Indeed.
does
The,
farmy things too.
yeah, kind of, right? What does he do? He loses goats.
Yeah, but they're alive.
True, that is true.
Like both his like all his kids, haha, are alive.
So that we know of. The
So,
he has a great moment. So early on, like it's pretty quick that Piper's like kind of warming to him. And they're like walking around outside and the kids are playing and they're having like a cute moment and the kids run by and like make them hold hands.
mhm.
And the dad's like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. Like I'm embarrassed." And he has this line. Ever since they started watching Christmas movies, they think I need a wife. Again, like a real Hallmark movie doesn't write that line, but these guys
No.
do, and it was wonderful.
And you can tell these guys are writing a lot of them, and they're
Hmm.
doing what they can to get their own entertainment out of doing
Definitely,
them.
definitely. Uh, and Tim was an architectural engineer, but and he worked in the big city.
Hmm.
And when he has like the moment of like telling Piper that he loves her, uh, this moment also is very funny to me. He says to her, "I can't exactly give you the big city life, theater, fine dining." Like that's what the big city life is, folks. Every night, every night. I mean,
Theater and fine dining.
theater, fine dining. I live in Yonkers now, so technically I'm not in the big bad city. But however many 15 years I lived in Manhattan, I can tell you, it was either or every night, theater or fine dining.
Good job.
Indeed.
Same here.
And what did you think of Tim's hair? Did it bother you? It made me very uncomfortable.
I was confused when she was telling them that she needed to get his hair out of his eyes because his hair was not long enough to be in his eyes.
No, but there was something really like off-putting about it. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's a little too long, but
Hmm.
not long and like I don't know, it does weird movements. It parts weird, right? Like he could very easily have done the mushroom part with his hair. Like that's how long it was, but I don't know, it just made me uncomfortable. I get creeped out by
I'm
weird things. What
sorry.
can I say?
I was looking at his shirts a lot because he was wearing, they were doing the red green thing, right?
Oh,
A-
completely. So many.
And she was in white and red for a long time till she started to feel Christmassy and she started wearing like a red jacket.
Mm, okay.
But they were like it was white and that bright Christmassy red when she changed to red.
Yes, yes.
But he kept wearing like this hunter green
Yep.
for a long time, and so I was watching his subtle gradations of increasing greenness so much that I think
Ah.
I did not pay enough attention to his
Well,
hair.
good for you. I envy your eyeballs. Now, number 4 is the montage, which we didn't really get any, I don't think.
I feel like the plot that initially I was watching as the A plot, which was not, was kind of the montage because I think all the work she did on the Festival Village
Yep.
or Christmas Village, I think counts as a montage because there was no tension there. There was no problems that she
Yeah.
was solving.
And
It
no
was
real
just getting better.
specifics either. It was
Yeah.
very just like suddenly every other scene was a moment of like, look, the village is doing great now. There are people. But it was
Yeah.
very like, aside from having gone on TV and then bringing in a new Santa, like, what did they actually do to this place?
Yeah, and it seemed like the first night she's at the bed and breakfast and she finds it far too Christmassy in her bedroom, which I kind of don't blame her for because it was filled with twinkle lights.
When like she's like, I'm gonna go to sleep, and my husband walked in at that exact moment. He's like, does
How?
everybody exactly? He's like, but is she gonna turn a light off or take her makeup off? I'm like, no, you do not do either of those things in a Christmas movie.
No, she got out of bed and God knows and I assume what she did is every night she snuck out of bed and magically fixed the village.
Oh,
And then she
yeah.
told us the next morning what she'd done. Like, oh, I found people from a community theater or
You know, it makes sense because she couldn't sleep in that room. There were too many
No.
lights, so just
No.
whatever. Okay, I just don't sleep anymore.
and she does seem like a woman who suffers from insomnia.
I
So,
gather that she is kind of just a very productive, like one of those, like, oh, I get three hours of sleep a night and I'm good, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Because I'm up at 3 to do my Pilates, and then at 4 to go over the numbers and all that.
yeah, and Tim's gonna help her be like, you need to get more sleep.
Right, you need to get 4 hours.
That's right.
Let's see. Now, number 5 is our dead parents or dead wife. Obviously,
Dead wife.
yeah, we have a dead wife. We don't really know much about her, right? Like, do we know how she died? Do we think Tim murdered her? Do we think she died in the
Oh.
accident that damaged Tim's brain?
Oh man, maybe yeah, there was like some sort of accident at the architectural firm in the big bad city.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
maybe a falling I-beam and he tried to save her.
While they were fine dining.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like the grand opening
Yeah.
of some
Of
fine dining
our American
area.
cousin. They were going to go to the theater that night.
Yep.
Yeah.
He took a shortcut through the alley by his building that he had just built, or they had built together,
Oh, I like
and
it.
the I-beam collapsed.
Yeah,
he
and it was
saved
his
her, but-
design that did it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
she saved him.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. We also get a couple of dead grandparents. Because grandma is very important in the story. Because we don't, like you said, we don't get a dead dad. We get a mention of a mother who's alive. We get that dad. Didn't dad leave them on Christmas Eve? Was that it? Or was that
Yeah.
a different movie I watched?
I
that also had a
I
abandoned
think
dad.
maybe.
Okay.
But I assume he had to go work. So
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we get a dead grandma. So, which grandmas have been around a lot this season. All right, and then our sassy sidekick, woo boy, I say.
So
we have
many.
Throw them out at me. Who'd you like? Who'd you spot? What do we got?
I liked her sister, although
Okay.
in comparison, like in a regular-ish or like a higher budget Christmas
Mm-hmm.
movie, I think that she would count as the sassy sidekick.
Yeah.
But we have so much local color in this
Yes,
town.
we do.
So we've talked about the shelter lady who ambushes people when they're on TV to give them dogs.
Love her. And I love how she's very like she's aware of it. Like she says to Piper, because Piper's spinning this story with a PR spin. And she says to her, she's like, I can do this too, you know.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
Yes.
it. That's her. There is
I liked the baker a lot. I wish there were more Kenny.
Baker is great. Kenny, again, played by what is the actor's it's the writer's name. Was it
I
Keith
wrote
or
it down,
Kenny?
I wrote it down.
Because I feel like was
Keith Cooper.
Keith Cooper. Okay, and he's just insane, and like they just go with it, and it works. And I found
I
it
want
very
to see
funny.
his movie. I would
Completely.
watch all these side sassy
Yeah.
local color characters.
There is also, again, we have Archie the good boy dog, kind of a collie mix who's very well behaved.
I wanted more goats.
More
We
goats.
needed more
Yeah, we never
goats.
really got to see the goats, and goats are very cute.
And we even had a conversation where they talked about what goats are.
You're right. Yes, the Christmas goats. There is, so Millie is the name of the innkeeper who is British,
her.
right? Or some form of that
Yeah,
area of the world.
I think she was British, yeah.
Yeah. And we cannot forget the other best character in this movie, Hi, Andy. You don't know me. I'm Luke. I'm a friend of Tim's who Piper is helping.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this is great. So Tim's best friend Luke is going to help out because this was when I was like very like like I've had this a lot with these movies this season where like there's been that one line that has like confirmed for me that I was watching something that was made with a little bit more spunk.
Hmm.
And they talk about how they need a photographer to take new pictures for the Christmas
Hmm.
Village. And Tim says like, "Oh, I'll call my friend Luke." And Luke shows up, and Luke takes pictures, and Piper's like, "Oh, like it's really nice of you to do this. Like, you sure like we don't have to pay you?" He's like, "No, no, no. I love doing this. It's such a breath of fresh air from what I normally do." And she says, "Oh, what kind of photographer are you?" And he says, "Did you catch it?"
Yeah, he's a crime scene
Yeah,
photographer.
he's like,
Yeah.
I do forensic photos.
Yeah,
Then
forensic photos.
and then the best thing, it doesn't end there. Tim says, "Show her some of your work."
Yes, and he keeps
It's
trying to do
great.
that throughout.
He does. And then like throughout the movie, it keeps coming up, and it made me
Yeah.
very happy.
I
And
wanted to see his romance with Andy.
I love that. I love when a movie has a B plot romance.
Yes.
Because they just don't always think it's worth it, and it always to me is very rewarding because it just fleshes everything out. And yeah, him and Andy, who have been talking on the phone, just are immediately smitten with each other, and they meet in
Hmm.
real life, and like they're two hot people, so they're gonna,
Hmm.
it's gonna work out, I think.
Hmm. Yep,
Yeah,
they both have a sense of humor, which I think is very helpful,
definitely.
especially when you know you're in forensics.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
am fascinated, though, that this town has a forensic photographer. Like, and
oh,
is it because it's a small town, and small towns on one hand are full of
mhm.
cozy Christmas romance, and on the other hand are full of murder?
Of Lifetime murders.
Yes.
So two theories there. One is the ongoing theory I have that every single Christmas movie, if you changed the music and took out the Christmas decorations, it is a Lifetime horror movie. So there's
Mm.
that. But the other part of that is I think Winter's Ridge is basically the Canadian Cabot Cove. Hmm.
Oh.
Because you're right. Like, why would this town need a forensic photographer? How many people die in this town? Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Well, one dies every week until our most beloved citizen, Millie the innkeeper, goes out of town, and then somebody dies where she goes. So this is actually the reboot of Murder She Wrote that we didn't get.
Yeah. I was disappointed that like obviously they decided that Millie would be paired up with Jack because, she's middle-aged and Jack. But I wish that if they had made her, well, because they made her Mrs. Claus,
Hmm.
I wish that they had kept it in character and made her a more rockabilly Mrs. Claus.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see now. Number 7 is our villain. Usually an evil woman or a male boss, typically.
Hmm.
In this case, we have a villainous character. Do you remember who that would be?
I'd say we have like one and a half.
Okay.
So the main one is that Brock guy who has
Yes.
stolen her grandma's
Mm-hmm.
cookies, which is easy to forget about in this movie because
Because the movie keeps
it
forgetting.
spends so much time in the festival village and all the stuff relating to her being sued by a company that sees the recipes for her grandma's cookies takes place basically on the phone.
Yeah, like on a
Um,
green screen Hawaiian set or something.
yeah, and with some really interesting toupees and Hawaiian shirts.
I was really trying to figure out what they were going with there, but whatever, it worked.
If I think they were going for American and and possibly probably New Yorker, I'm
Okay,
sorry to say, from
that's
my
fair.
experience having lived there. Um, but I would say the half villain is angry Scottish Santa.
Yeah, we do briefly get angry Scottish Santa, uh, who is just like, what do you think the story there? Like, he was definitely like Tim's bully in high school, right? And Tim
Yeah,
just still never could stand up to him, and still doesn't
yeah,
until not Andy, Piper is finally like, no, you're fired.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am interested that he engaged in some self-examination on his own because we don't see what transforms him.
No,
So he just maybe Santa was just a bad situation for him, and now that he's
possibly.
not, maybe he doesn't get along with kids, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's just been too long and he wants
Yeah.
to wear a different suit.
But he comes around, and by the end, he is like giving some very sage advice.
Yeah.
Oh.
And waiting very patiently while they meet cute at the airport.
Yeah, like this town does things to people, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. The we should say, the whole, if you're wondering how the whole plagiarism of cookie recipes plays out, the movie kind of doesn't really care, but they do eventually resolve it. And in a very funny way. It
Yeah.
turns out it's not that this guy stole her grandmother's cookies. He did, but it doesn't matter because the grandmother's recipes were public domain from cookbooks that everybody in the world had in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Right?
I enjoy how dismissive Kenny the baker is of her recipes.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, everybody knows that recipe.
They're all basic.
Let's see. So number 8 is slapstick, which I thought we were going to have a lot more because there's a dog.
Yeah.
And we have like City Girl in the country. And it opens with, there's like garland falling on her and you think it's going to go there. But I didn't really clock much more after that.
No, and there's goats.
There are goats.
I know I'm obsessed with the goats, but
they're goats. Goats are
they're
adorable.
goats, yes. I think they didn't have enough money for the slapstick, like honestly.
Yeah. They couldn't risk somebody actually twisting their ankle.
Yeah. Yep. And it was really snowy,
Yeah.
and really slick. So
Yeah. So number 9 is our sage old person, which I think in this case just flows right into number 10, which is Santa Claus.
yes.
Yeah, because Santa Claus is sage and does give important advice here.
Yes.
And the other great thing about Santa is there's like a couple of again, very funny lines around this Santa.
Mm-hmm.
Because Santa shows up, he's the Uber driver, and like he gets out of the car and everybody's like, oh my God, it's Santa Claus. He's like, yeah, I am. I'll be your Santa now. Great.
Yeah.
And immediately, Piper is like, oh my God, he's great, and looks at Tim, and she's like, don't worry, I did a background check.
Yes.
And Tim says, I was trying to figure out how to ask that tactfully.
Yes. It's like we know what the audience is thinking.
Exactly. And then like similarly at one point, she goes back on the talk show, to now promote the village. It's in full swing. So she's there to talk about it. And the same interviewer who was trying to like grill her earlier is now like into it in like good positive mode. And she has a line
Yeah.
where she says like, maybe I'll take Santa's lap for a test drive. And then
Yep.
immediately she's like, oh my God, I heard how that sounded.
There's also Jack apparently has experience with farm animals.
Yes, that's right. He's the one that saves the goats.
Yes.
Yes. Good for
But
him.
there's-
I hope he does get to bang Millie.
Yes.
Let's see. All right. So those are our 10. We have most of them. And then next is our bonus round. So some of the things we look for. Lots of public domain holiday songs. There's a fair amount.
Yeah.
Lots of We Wish You Merry Christmases. Lots of Deck the Hallses.
Nothing that really stuck out for me. though.
No. Yeah. There's a busker singing Deck the Halls, which you think like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy's going to get used again. And he does, right? He comes back for the performance at the village.
Yep, and he has like an unusual Christmas themed jacket slash I don't know, like
notice
hoodie
this.
or something.
Okay.
He has one that is white with black buttons like a snowman's top or like Bonhomme, but
Yeah.
they don't complete the look with any kind of hat, but of course budget. So
And also their fear of infringing on Frosty. Because Frosty is
yeah.
not public domain. You got to pay big bucks for that.
yeah. And I'm curious to like how much of their own clothing and stuff they were wearing for this.
All of it, probably.
Yeah.
Or definitely recycled. Like, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
all of the coats Piper wears have been worn in several other movies.
Yes.
There's one other, like, musical moment that doesn't otherwise fall in here, and it was, I don't think it was Christmas music, but can we talk about the breakdancing elf?
Yes, we love the elf.
Yes. There's an elf, and he breakdances.
I wish we got more at the same
Same.
time. That I appreciate that we never really know what his deal is,
We do not.
and we don't know. I don't think we ever find out what his name is.
I also don't think we do.
And I I enjoyed his background business with Angry Scottish Santa, who was his initial boss because Angry Scottish Santa ran both the only Santa business in town
Yep.
and the only elf impersonator or whatever business in town. And this elf chooses Jack the Good Santa over Angry Scottish
He
Santa.
does.
But yeah, he has a breakdancing scene
Yes.
with the busker, and he has some real moves. Like I
Yeah.
think they were like, yeah, he has real moves, but at the same time, I think it was difficult for him to do in his elf costume and in the snow, which
Very possible.
completely legit.
Sure.
So they did some cutting that I associate with trying to make fights look better. In this case, they did the cuts away where, oh, the audience is reacting to a
Yes,
great move, and then they
yes.
cut back, and it's a decent move, but
Yeah. Probably not what he is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Ebsede is the actor, and he's credited as elf number 1, though I don't remember an elf number 2 in this movie. But, and then let's see. Up next is our secret family recipe.
Grammys.
Grammy's
turned
not
out
so
not so
secret
secret.
cookies,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, yeah, and they mention others, but it's really just that. So, oh, and there is a secret recipe revealed in this movie of the actual first time bubblegum was invented.
Ah,
Right?
yeah, I
That
forgot about that.
yeah, Kenny's great uncle, he claims invented bubblegum from tree sap.
Yes,
But it actually is poisonous. Don't do it. Is then what he warns us.
yes.
Again, genuinely, I actually chuckled at that out loud, audibly. Small business in danger is the next thing, and
Yep.
this little North Pole, surprisingly, isn't making money, which is weird for a business that doesn't actually charge anybody anything.
Yeah, and she was really I watched this with Beth Watkins, who from
Hey,
The Gutter and Beth Loves Bollywood, and she pointed out that it was weird to her that they were really focused on having a quality website when what she looks for in a Christmas Village website is just like the address and the phone number to go there.
hmm
One does not need a flashy website. In
you
fact,
don't
one
you
might
don't
be
need
a little
Adobe
concerned.
or JavaScript. What?
Yeah, yes.
He does acknowledge that, when they talk about, how he doesn't charge for pictures with Santa Claus, and he does at one point say, maybe that's why I'm failing as a business.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, one reason.
Yes.
No product placement that I caught, but number 5 is our cloying child. So we have 2 children in this movie.
Hmm.
Declan and what's the little girl's name? It's a little girl, little boy. The little boy only has one movie to his credit, and it is this one. The little girl, I think, has grown up to actually act. Paige, was that her name? She,
Think so.
yeah,
That
she
sounds right.
she has grown up and continued, has quite a few credits still. Curious just how you felt about them as kids, as characters.
They were very realistic kids. Like it was they usually try for something more angelic in some of these movies.
Yeah,
And they were just like kids.
true.
And I appreciated that they sort of just ran around doing whatever they were doing in some sort of separate, entirely different movie with Archie
Yes.
and probably the goats.
Yeah, yeah. They may. Now that we're saying it, I'm kind of thinking in another era they would be the twins in the Vivitch. There's definitely something that if they were to find a Necronomicon, bad things would happen.
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God. Because it's like Angry Scottish Santa was saying that no one ever leaves.
Oh yeah.
And
That
that's
makes
why they're
perfect
driving
sense.
so slowly on that road, leaving and walking so slowly in the airport because you can't leave.
Yeah. Oof. And it could be all these kids, or they're like the 2 kids on
Yeah.
the Buffy episode where
Yeah.
it's Hansel and Gretel, but it's not. They're just actually a demon
Yeah.
that tricks people. Yeah. No, there was something ominous about them.
That's why you stay in the big bad city.
Yeah, you might get crushed by a beam while dining at a theater, but it's still you're not going to get sacrificed to a demon.
No.
I guess we did not have any holiday themed names that I caught, right? Like
No, that was
lame.
unusual.
Yeah, it seemed like it would have been an easy win for them. No finding the perfect tree storyline. We have an ornament, and he's like, "My kids made this ornament for you. I know you're probably gonna throw it away, but please don't do that until like after you walk away from them." It's like this woman's not a monster. She's not gonna like burn this thing that your kids put time into. Um, no elaborate holiday cocktails. Empty coffee cup acting. I don't know that I really clocked any in this movie. I don't think
Not any that really stuck out. No.
yeah, yeah. And the next thing, one of my favorites is actors who are trying very hard to not actually take a bite of food on camera. And I would say this is another one of those movies. Sometimes the lower the budget, the more that doesn't happen, because the more you
Yeah.
get the sense that it's the only thing that's feeding the cast.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think they ate.
Kenny did. I mean, Kenny ate cookies a couple of times.
Yes.
But yeah, well, I mean, you know what though? Remember, we're in a small town. There's no such thing as fine dining
No, you're
or
right.
theater. I mean, really. Let's see. And then number 11 is Canadianisms. I'm sorry. Did you catch any Canadianisms?
Oh boy. Are you remarking on their accents?
Oh, there was just maybe
Oh.
we should talk about that a little bit. Just a few. I think
Yeah,
Luke
they
had
were not
the
trying to sound
deepest.
American
No,
at
they
all.
were not. Which I kind of appreciate that. And again, I didn't
Yeah.
catch them say it was Canada, but now that they did, I appreciate just how Canadian some of the more like, because you're right, if these people have never left this town, then they should have really thick accents, like Luke.
Yep, they have their accents. Yeah. Maybe I'm imagining that they said that, and just because they were being so Canadian and sounding so Canadian and not trying to sound American or talk about like we're going to New York tomorrow. Okay, I will
It
be
is
returning.
12 kilometers away, eh?
Yeah, they were.
Yep.
It
And then
was in Canada. That was Canada, so that's the Canadianism.
100%, yes. Then the last thing is the warm weather watch, which, does it actually look like it is winter?
Yes, it looks like it's winter.
Yeah, there is snow. That opening montage is all about like shoveling snow and prepping for things. And
Oh
yeah,
my God. I could see their breath when they were supposedly in the cabin, and I'm like, are they letting it deliberately be cold because Santa is so hot under those lights in his Santa outfit? Or is it just like it's just that
it's
cold
just
in
that cold
cabin
in
room?
Canada. I mean, either way, it works. So overall, how did you feel about A Christmas Village?
Like I said, I feel that I enjoyed the donut-y rim of it. I was not very invested in the romance, but I would say it's realistic in the sense that you're very rarely invested in other people's romances,
Fair.
which is healthy and good. Because if you treated other people's romances like these movies, oh my God.
You'd be really weird.
Yes, and I liked that the people in this movie treated other people's romances like that. Like they were happy to
Yeah.
see them together, like people who were appropriately happy to see them together.
Right.
And other people did not care.
Yeah,
And their own business.
that has been one of the things I think that is most like watching all the movies now. So because this is number 9 or so, one of the themes that the new things that I've noticed this year that I haven't noticed so much in other years is how many movies have really leaned into older characters being unhealthily invested in younger characters getting it on.
Yes.
Where it's like, where I don't know, like I get it, like you meet people and you think they'd be great together and you just feel like, oh man, if they could just get past themselves they'd be fine. But no, like
Yeah.
several movies this year have been like old people, meaning like the sage old people of the movie, the parents, the
Yeah.
grandparents, the Mrs. Claus and so on, doing like spending a whole lot of time, an unhealthy amount of time, doing what they can to get these two characters to sexually be interested in each other. And it's
that's
just a
when
weird thing.
it starts to dip into like psychological thrillers and horror at that point.
Exactly.
Like when it's the whole town, it's horror, and when it's like the grandparents and stuff, it's psychological thrillers.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And again, you should watch Anything for Jackson, which is about grandparents. And
Yes.
yeah, so it all ties in. Yeah, and I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I will say, I think uh, it's one that you kind of have to listen to realize that it is doing some interesting things and having some fun with itself. It's not the prettiest looking one. It's not the one that I know a lot of people who watch these like where like they're visiting family for Christmas and their family is watching these unironically, but they want to kind of watch them and like laugh at them. This one, it might not please others as much as it would please somebody with a bit of a sense of humor watching it for that, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. It did make me laugh, so.
Hooray.
Who knew? Now, with that, Carol, when not, falling in love with people with terrible hair and head injuries, what are you up to? What are you doing? Where can people find your work?
Well, they can always find me at the Cultural Gutter, which is a website dedicated to thoughtful writing about disreputable art. It's www.culturalgutter.com. And right now I have a piece up on my own site, Monstrous Industry, at wordpress.com, about Travis Stevens' A Wounded Fawn. And I am very pleased with that piece.
I have not seen it yet, but I've heard wonderful things. I know you're a big fan.
So
I
good.
have not read your piece yet because I figured I should watch it first.
I do have 2 paragraphs saying how much I love it that are spoiler free, but then I have like a billion words of how much I love it that are
Detailed?
detailed. Yes, that's
Okay.
a good word for
As
it.
soon as I get around to it, I will go there to read. Because
Yes.
I will watch your words, which is the way of reading that. I did. Totally. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it has been a pleasure having you. I wish you a very nice ride on Santa's lap for the rest of the season.
Perhaps we can discover whether Santa is stripping for business or pleasure.
Oh, isn't that the eternal question?